How's it going, guys? This is Sebastien back again. Gonna do another overview on some recent sales. Mostly gonna be eBay, which is my main selling platform, and then a couple on Pangobooks and Depop. And Depop mostly do shirts and clothing on there, and Pango is a pretty self-explanatory. It's books. And Depop, the crowd skews a little younger, so at least that's my vibe on it. So you don't always sell for the highest value amounts, but it can happen, and the one I sold here is pretty good. But I think versus Poshmark and eBay, which have maybe on average a slightly older demographic or audience, and that's maybe more into their like peak earning years, you can get more like higher value sales on average. But to start off with, this was a catalog, a Versace catalog I picked up on eBay in an auction. And I believe the cover features Kate Moss shot by Avedon, and it's from 1996, and it's really cool. It's the first Versace catalog I picked up, and I'd love to pick up more if the price is right, but it's really just got that great mid-90s feel to it, which is very fun. And it's pretty early on in Kate Moss's career. I believe like her first major cover was 1993 UK Vogue. So this being just a couple years after is pretty neat. So yeah, that's a cool pickup. I really like this one. And now on to some of the sales. This first one is interesting. It's a soccer jersey, a vintage Chivas de Guadalajara soccer goalie jersey. And so it sold for 110, cost about $6, and got that at Goodwill. They the soccer jerseys are often pretty fairly priced, unlike sometimes the NFL jerseys, they price them up to like $30 or whatever. I mean, they can do whatever they want. They can price things however they want. I don't really care. It's just it doesn't serve my purposes. So you try and find the value where you can. But the cool thing about this one is I didn't know this, but Chivas de Guadalajara I think is kind of like the Yankees in the Mexican Soccer League. So I've come across a few of their jerseys. This was the more valuable one that I found because I think it's particularly rare because it's the goalie jersey. So that's kind of what makes it interesting, and it had some cool patches on it as well. Next is Anna Cadell, The History of the Universe as Told by the Achu Maui Indians of California. This was a vintage paperback, nonfiction, from 1992, published by the U of A, University of Arizona Press, and it sold for $65 on Pangobooks. And the interesting thing about these is these are kind of like specialty publications for like a very narrow audience, but usually they're very academic, obviously. But they can be very interesting and actually sometimes worth quite a bit, depending on the subject and who's writing it and how good the work is and all that. Good or interesting, and so, these editions, they don't usually publish a lot of them either. So they can be very hard to find. So yeah, that was an interesting one. Next is, this was the Depop sale. The Shane Doan Coyotes jersey, and this one sold for $104, and it cost about, from what I recall, about $15 to $18. And Shane Doan was a really great Coyotes player. I don't follow hockey very closely, but I know his name and everything, and I think he's very well regarded. Next is a Versace button-up, a pretty cool shirt. Nice quality, of course. And I mean, actually, I wasn't even thinking about the catalog that I showed initially, and that this is the first Versace piece I've ever sold and found. But it cost about $16 to $20 from what I recall, and it sold for $104.99. So yeah, pretty cool shirt. Hopefully, whoever it's going to, they'll enjoy it. And yeah, this next one is a Lana Del Rey Green Bible book. And this one I showed just the other week in the show and tell video when I found it. And I didn't know much about it, but I was pretty sure it had decent value just from a quick research. And sold it for $195. And thing is, a lot of the comps are actually higher on the sales, you know, between $300 and $500. But this one had a couple condition issues. And you know what? I was like, you know, let's move it quickly. $200 is good. And there's also, to be noted, a brown edition. So the good thing with these is there's no ISBNs. So the book scanners that often do, say, the Goodwills and stuff, they're going to miss these kind of things. So these are kind of cool things to look out for. Next is a vintage paperback, The Cop Who Wouldn't Quit, from 1984. It's a true crime killer justice. I don't know. I guess I must have copied those keywords from somebody because that's not usually something I'd use. But it sold for $49.99. And the thing that stuck out to me was I've spent enough time, you know, looking at vintage paperbacks that you kind of get an idea on what's rare or hard to find, and certain visual cues on, like, you know, the type of cover or the fonts that are being used. You start picking up on what can be interesting or might have value or collectability. So this one, I didn't know anything about it, but it turned out it seems to be fairly collectible. So, and those are always fun to find for me. I think they're just like little hidden gems, and I have a very soft spot for vintage paperbacks. Next is Chuck Yeager's autobiography, and this one is signed and sold for $49.99, picked up for a few dollars. This book, this autobiography, was published in a very, very huge amounts, I think, because I see it a lot. And a decent portion of them are signed. So that's pretty cool. My relationship with Yeager goes back to, like, you know, grade school, where we had like, I think it was in school, there was a Chuck Yeager like flight simulator. And so I remember playing that and being absolutely, I mean, I'd always crash the planes and I was terrible at that game. But that's how I knew about Chuck Yeager. I mean, I didn't know anything else about the man except this video game. So that introduced, and I figured, oh, this guy must be kind of a badass, you know, if he's got a game named after him and he's flying jets all over the place. I mean, this guy has to be amazing. Next is another vintage book. This one's a vintage paperback, Best of Creepy. It's from 1971. And the cool thing is it has a Frank Frazetta cover art. And this is Creepy was a Warren publication along with Vampirella and Eerie. And so those were kind of following in the vintage horror comics genre off of like EC Comics. And they had a lot of great artists working in those comic issues. And Frazetta did a decent portion of, or a decent amount of covers for those publications. And normally I don't collect single issue comics, but that's definitely some that I'd love to collect, even just for display. I think they display so nicely. The other one I'd love to collect, maybe a couple issues of, is the Heavy Metal, the French edition, the original French edition, Métal Hurlant, which you know, has a lot of just great work and artists as well. Next is Kurt Warner Super Bowl 43 jersey, and I believe I paid about $15 to $18 on this one. Sold it for $62.99, and you know, personally, I love Kurt Warner, and this jersey kind of makes me sad because it reminds me of that Super Bowl, and I was very sad that we didn't win that one, and I really can't stand the Steelers. So, you know, that's life. Next is another vintage paperback, This one is a Spanish edition of The Little Prince, and which is an absolute classic, and cost about $1, sold for $28.99. So I always like finding those foreign editions of various type of books, and like books that are kind of iconic as well. So you can often find this, Spanish editions in general because it's a very popular language. But sometimes it really depends. The more certain languages, they just don't have as high print runs, and people would love to collect, like, say, Russian editions of, vintage Russian editions of Tolkien, which, I mean, I would want to collect that personally. So anyways, that's just like things to think about when you're out and finding stuff. Some of the foreign material can be really cool. My friend, she doesn't like to have anything that she can't actually read, so, and that, I totally understand that. But we all have our different little frameworks that we like to operate under. Next is Adult Tales of Terror, the first issue, and it's EC Comics from 1955. The cover is done by Reed Crandall, and this one sold for $101. It cost about $1. And, I never find usually interesting single issue comics. This one I actually found along with some of those like special issue Transformers comics from the 80s. So it must have been the same collection or, comic dealer or whatever. So I got very lucky on that. And this one I was tempted to keep because I love those vintage horror comics. And this one is very hard to find. But it's it gets passed on to somebody who is more like specialized and really focused on that niche, hopefully. So, but it was a cool sale and next this is an exhibition catalog book from 2001 called The Art of Hatred: Images of Intolerance in Florida Culture. Cost about $2, sold for $39.99. It was a very interesting book, where it kind of dovetails with, there can be really great artwork, but, it showcases the pathologies of the culture. Both, there can be good aspects and bad aspects, and here you can see kind of the darker side of the culture, or part of the culture in certain places. And I mean, every place has, a spectrum of, the art is, merely reveals what the people in that time and place are, how they're experiencing life, and they're manifesting it through the work and showing you. So it's interesting. It tells a story. It can be a terrible story. It can be interesting. It can be happy. It just depends. But it is very interesting because it tells you a lot about the people and the place. Next is kind of an art concept design book on StarCraft 2. These kind of books are really cool. I like them a lot personally just because I think they're great reference books because a lot of times the artists, behind animated movies and like video games, they're really phenomenal artists, and you can see within these books it showcases their sketches, their character design, the background art. So I really like picking those up, and even this one is not like particularly valuable. I sold it for $25.99. But they're great books, great for reference if you're an artist, if you like the franchise or the movie, the game, whatever. So those are kind of fun to collect and have around. Otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'll do another show and tell pretty soon. And yeah, if you had any favorites within this video, let me know. My particular favorite was the Reed Crandall cover from the EC Comics Adult Tales of Terror from 1955. I was tempted to keep it, but I'm sure it's going on to somebody else who will appreciate it more and has a deeper involvement in the genre, hopefully. So yeah, hope you have a good one. And if you have any comments, suggestions, any of that, just, yeah, let me know. Drop a comment. Take care. Bye. How's it going, guys? Shit.